We've got a little ACC preview for you here. Florida State, Louisville, it goes down tomorrow. We will be in the building and we are going to get you ready for how we got here and who is going to come out on top on today's episode.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Kenton, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download, subscribe to the pod from anywhere that you listen. Today's episode is all about ACC Championship weekend. Saturday, it goes down between Florida State and Louisville. It's going to be an exciting one at 8 p.m. on our ACC network, friends. You know, it's time. It's time. Happy December. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little excited for the holiday season, if you can't tell. Kenton, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. This championship game should be the first really, really good one that we've seen in quite some time. I mean, this is a game where we finally get the two best teams. Oh, Lord have mercy. What a time. We're all excited. We're all geeked up. You know, you got one team that's undefeated coming into this thing just rolling and lost their quarterback, still battling, still doing the thing. You got another team that's limping in a little bit in Louisville off a tough loss to Kentucky, where I do agree that it is very interesting that one of the most penalized teams in the SEC all of a sudden only had one penalty and a half against one of the better and more explosive teams in America. Very interesting stuff there. Very interesting. But we don't blame the refs around here, even though we will say that they did a terrible job. We don't blame them for a loss or a win. So, you know, it's going to be a very interesting game with two teams coming in off very different paths.
Well, there's that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege to get started. All right, Ken, of course, before we get into championship mode, right, we have to talk about how we got here. It's been a long season. It's been a long 13 weeks. We're here finally, getting ready to go to Charlotte. But let's talk about the two teams who are going to face off on a Saturday night. Florida State, okay? It's been a team that we've talked about for a couple of years. The Mike Norvell era was a rocky start. I mean, we've had some Jacksonville State losses, right? Some head-scratching ones. Is he actually the guy? Is he going to be able to turn this program around? Is it a good fit? You have all the pieces, you have all the bones, but can't quite take it to the next level. Thankfully, that administration was patient with Norvell, and now you have an undefeated program looking to get an ACC championship and make themselves solidified in that college football playoff conversation, although they've been very much slighted in that, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, anybody who's saying that this team does not belong in the college football playoff the college football playoff in that kind of 1 through 4, they're saying that because they lost Jordan Travis, right? We know how devastating that injury was against North Alabama. We know that it coming in the second to last game of the regular season, absolutely atrocious time for it to happen. But this is a Florida State team that is undefeated with an average margin of victory, average of 22 points.
Yeah. Would you argue that it's more because we're the ACC and that's why they're being slighted, or do you genuinely think it's Jordan Travis?
I think it's genuinely Jordan Travis. Well, actually, the answer is yes. It's both. It's both, right? You have some people who doubt the ACC as a whole, and they're like, oh, the problem is the ACC isn't good, and you mollywop the ACC doesn't mean anything. But again, I would argue what conference is outside of their top 2 to 3 teams? What conference has really shown out, top to bottom? Everybody's good. Everybody's rolling outside of the ACC. The Pac-12 haven't got strong of a year as they've had in quite some time. They're doing their swan song. Listen, okay. Pac-12, Pac-2, Tupac, whatever you want to call them. The boys out west are having the best season that we've seen out of them in a while.
Yes.
I'll give them their guts. They got it. The Big 12. I wouldn't even say outside of Texas, there's been anybody else who's been all that relevant.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State is in their championship game, and they lost to South Alabama. Much love to the Jaguars, but they got blew out by South Alabama. Stop playing with me. Stop it.
Yeah.
Sure. Go on to get serious. Go on to get serious there. The Big Ten. I was in your championship game. What? And some people going to say, oh, Iowa ain't lost no terrible games. Sure, they haven't. I think losing to Minnesota counts as a terrible loss, but you get the point. Long story short, no conference has top to bottom been super strong. Nobody.
Sure.
So, I think that the part of it being the ACC, part of it being Jordan Travis, who was on pace to potentially get an invite to New York for the Heisman Award, Davey O'Brien, all the good things, him going down affects it as well, but I think it's a combination of the two.
I argue to your point, I would say, just like we were talking about who's in People's Championship games, the best two teams finally in the ACC get to compete against each other. Florida State hasn't been there in a decade. Louisville's going for the first time. So it's finally, you get rid of that Atlantic kind of circle. Who's going to be the best? It's going to be Clemson for a long, good minute. Now you've got just the best of the best facing off against each other, and it speaks volumes, that there are teams that get this opportunity, maybe a down year for Clemson, but a good one for the Noles. So with this 12-0, 8-0 in the ACC, Florida State and Louisville did not face off. Florida State had some moments where we were, okay, pause a little bit, got a little shaky start, had a close one against Boston College, had some other games where, Duke before Riley Leonard broke his ankle, a whole different ball game. But
the Clemson game, Clemson had that team. They had them up against the ropes, and they let them off the hook. Let them boys way off the hook.
Absolutely. And I think now when you say to yourself, a good team knows how to win in, tough moments. And that's what you can certainly say about the Seminoles. But what about this program right now has made you excited about them and their hopes for winning ACC Championship?
Balance and playmakers. That's what gives me that deal about them. This is a team that doesn't, with other teams in the conference, we have seen, for example, both of our alma maters, for example, right? Carolina, all flash, all the playmakers, all the things on the outside. The interior was lacking sorely, and the defense was lacking sorely. You look at NC State, the defense shows up. Best linebacker in the nation, all the good things. The offense had multiple performances of 24 points or less. Multiple. So that's never going to get it done. Florida State, it's balanced. Yes, you have absolute playmakers on the defensive side, like Jared Verts, who's going to be one of the first guys called next year, like Kalen DeLoach, who, if anybody's saying, hey, Florida State doesn't have any homegrown talent, let's not lie. Florida State doesn't have much homegrown talent. We'll get that, right? Even if you want to say, well, Jordan Travis, whether or not he is or isn't homegrown, what he was or wasn't at Louisville, whatever. But you could look at Kalen DeLoach and say, that's a day oneer that has gotten better and better, and he's a leader on that defense because of that. Offensively, you've got those two monsters on the outside, the monstars, if you will, in Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman. You got Benson, you got Tofili, you got some tight ends in Bell Bell is a tight end of many on that team that you can get the ball to as well. And Tate Rodemaker, despite reports of him allegedly potentially having a concussion or whatever, he was practicing this week. The young man was practicing this week. So
unless the boy's seeing stars and ghosts, he gonna be out there. And I'll tell you what, if I know anything about college football, even if he's seeing stars or ghosts, as long as he ain't seeing both. As long as he sees Keon, the ghost of Keon, and the ghost of Johnny, he's gonna be all right. He can hand it off to Trey. He's gonna play that game.
But I think it's the balance on this team. I think it's you have to look deeply for a chink in the armor on this team, and that's what makes this team special, because they've got playmakers at every level on both sides of the ball, and that balance is what has allowed them to sustain, what allowed them to beat their rival without Jordan Travis, who was, again, performing at that level to where, you joke about Jordan Travis for Heisman, but he really was playing at that level. Not saying he was going to win it, but he was at that level that the invite was in order. And so, you look at that situation and you just say to yourself, this team, they're stacked top to bottom. They can still get this thing done even with a backup quarterback.
Florida State wins if.
Florida State wins if Tate Rodemaker is a really good game manager, if he does his best Kirk Cousins impression. Like
100%.
You don't have to be a killer. You don't have to be extending plays 5-10 seconds. You don't have to be the guy that's, just making all these amazing things happen. Get the ball to your playmakers, make good decisions, and rock out from there. That's it. Protect the ball, make good decisions. You don't need to hit a bunch of highlight throws, 40 yards down the sideline, drop shot. You don't need to hit those perfect passes. Get it to your playmakers when they're open. Throw up the 50-50 ball in a way where your monsters of receivers can turn it into a 70-30 ball and rock out with that.
See, I think Florida State wins if that D-line just does what we know them to be.
Yeah.
If Jared Verse just has his way with Plummer, it's going to be a long day for that offensive line. It's going to be a long day for the Cardinals. I think if you just do what we expect, and even if you turn it up a notch because it's championship game, Jack's going to have his biggest one.
But yeah, I think that's another path for Florida State to win this thing. They've got multiple paths to this. And if Jack Plummer has a disaster class, congratulations.
All right, guys, let's pay some bills real quick. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet at FanDuel. That's $150 if your team wins. You've been thinking about joining FanDuel? There's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. So we talked through Florida State and we talked about their chances and all the good things, but there's another side of this coin, and that's the Louisville Cardinals, who were sitting at 10-2, had a great season, surprised us all. They were the dark horse that we didn't really know what we were going to get, but Brom certainly is something to be said about a coach who has ties to a program, who really embodies, a city and the community and all the things and pours that into his players. And that's exactly what I feel like the Cardinals did this season, and had some breakout players in Jawar Jordan, Ashton Gelati, things like that. And now you find yourself in the championship game for the first time, which could be one of many, starting a good run for the Cardinals here. But talk about this Louisville team and just the excitement that's been around it, just building into the season and how we got here.
The reality is this is a team that, while they have a lot of guys who are homegrown, they are in the same vein as Florida State, which this kind of tells you about the new nature of college football, in that both of these teams have dominated in the portal, right? Mm-hmm. Both of these teams have multiple players who are very important to the deal that are out of the portal. If you look at, starting quarterback Jack Plummer, running back Jawar Jordan, you're looking at multiple guys outside of them that have come from the portal as well. But Louisville has done this thing because, they have the pieces all over the place as well. They have playmakers all over the place as well. However, their thing has been the offense. Their offense has been the most explosive, one of the more explosive in the country. And on top of that, this is a team that has hit a couple stumbling blocks. Mm-hmm. Their chin is tested. They've seen some, the type of adversity, and they've seen 18 to 22-year-olds do 18 to 22-year-old things where you look up and you're like, we lost a bit. This is a team that all in all has stayed the course, has done what they needed to do, and has, like you said, transformed from that dark horse into, hey, we're here now. The Cardinals have arrived on the scene, because the reality is, I don't think that this is a one-year thing for them. Mm-hmm. I honestly and truly don't. Almost every player that they have that is doing meaningful things in terms of their skill position players has the ability to come back. They have had defensive backs transfer in and show up at a high level. Don't get me wrong. Cam Kelly does Cam Kelly things every now and then. But for the most part, their defensive backs that have transferred in have played phenomenally well. I can't speak highly enough of Ashton Gelati. I think he is one of the most underrated defensive ends in the nation. And I will continue to beat the table for him. I don't care if anybody says, oh, he's first team all ACC. He can't be underrated with that. He can, and he is. Okay. The young man is a piece that you can move up and down the defensive line and get a rush from him. And also, he opens it up for the other guys to eat. When he gets doubled, in the words of Alpo, everybody eats, B. He opens it up and sets the table as the pass rusher there. And, of course, offensively, home run hitters left and right. You think you in Yankee Stadium the way that those guys can absolutely knock it out the park every time they come up to bat. Joe R. Jordan, when he's healthy and rolling, he's moving and grooving. Oh, to packing the mail, it's going if you give him a crease. You've got a backup behind him, a bigger fella that can also get it done. You've got Bruce Huggins, who is getting it done. You've got Thrash, who is getting it done. You've got multiple playmakers that when the ball is in their hands, they're explosive. You do not want to go to the bathroom when this Louisville team is on the offense. And also, Jack Plummer. Let's just be honest about it. I said that he would need 5 elite games for them to get where they need to be. He hasn't had that. He's had a lot of really good games. Mm-hmm. And yet, when he does have that elite game, you think that there's nobody in the world that can beat this team. And that's just how they look. You know, they've gotten here through a very explosive offense, very high-powered offense, and through a defense that does enough. At times is dominant, but at times they kind of regress and just do enough to get them wins.
And I think what's important about this Louisville team is a team that got punched in the mouth with a Pittsburgh team that, you know, obviously didn't pan out much. But you've seen other teams in this league who get punched in the mouth by your lower tier programs and can't turn it around, can't figure out 2 to 3. And can't figure out how to turn their season around and kind of put their head, you know, to the pavement and keep pushing forward. And I think that's a credit to Brom. And when you talk about a 10-win season, first out the gate, similar to, I think, about Elko era, except I feel like Brom is going to stick around and he's not just looking at Louisville as a launching pad and really trying to change things for this program. So there's exciting parts of Louisville. The nervousness comes in. How do you respond when this is your first time and you've never been here? You don't know how to act, especially when you've been punched in the mouth with teams that clearly aren't even of the same caliber as a Florida State. How do you kind of lock in and mentally get ready for this charge that's ahead of you?
Well, if I'm Louisville, the nervousness is all on them. Yeah. We've been knocked out of playoff contention. All we can do is spoil your party, baby. That's all we can do. That's the best we can hope for. That's the best result we can hope for. The nervousness is on Florida State because y'all are the ones undefeated. Y'all are the ones that not only do you want to win, you need style points to get in. So
have to win. Yeah.
So at this point in time, if I'm Louisville, if I'm Coach Brown, I'm saying, go play free. Go have fun. Let's go. These guys are just – Keon Coleman is a freak of nature, but he puts his pants on one leg at a time just like you. He may eat hot and spices before the game and Waffle House after. But guess what? The young man ain't doing no double tuck handspring into his pants. He puts his pants on one leg at a time just like you do.
Yeah.
Same thing for Johnny Wilson. They pants may be a little longer than most receivers, but guess what? They still put them on one leg at a time. The boys don't float and descend from heaven into their clothing. So with that being said, go play free. Go have fun. We are where we are. Enjoy this thing. Enjoy this thing because it's hard climbing this mountain. It's hard climbing this mountain. And if you think you'll be back just because we got here this year, look at those boys up there in Pittsburgh. Look what happened.
Look at them boys in Wake Forest.
If you think we'll be back, look at the boys in Wake Forest. If you think we'll be back just off of principles and ha-has and he-he's, with all due respect, look at Clemson.
Come on. Clemson had a consistent run to where I'm like, all right, they could take a year off, but they're coming back.
They may be back in the future. But are they back this year? There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. So if I'm Brown, I'm saying play like there's no tomorrow. Play like you're having fun. Play like be free out there. Those guys over there, they're going to be tense. They're going to be, we got to get to the championship. We got to press. We're going to have fun with this thing. We're going to get creative. We're going to open up the playbook, and it's going to be a parade inside my city. That's what the Browns want to say at the end of this thing.
So Louisville wins if they play free.
Yeah, if they play free and if they force Tate Rodemaker to have to win the game, if they can stop the run, if they can stop Benson and Tofili and say, hey, guess what? You've got to win it. You have got to beat us. You have got to make some spectacular throws, and that offense lights up the scoreboard. Because if this thing is ugly, if it's low scoring, if it's mucky, Florida State wins it. But if you make this thing a track meet on grass, congratulations. Cardinals, you got a shot. You got a shot. And I'd actually favor the Cardinals if both teams hit over about 28 points. I'd favor the Cardinals.
I don't think it's going to be that high flying of defense, but let's talk about it. All right. At the end of the day, we talked through and we reached out to you guys on YouTube and said, hey, tell us who you think is going to get the nod, right? And not only that, tell us what the final predictions are going to be. So Kenton, run the group through this thing and tell us how we're shaking out.
Absolutely. So the way that we separated the polling this time was very unique because we only have two teams that are going to be playing this week. And so we didn't separate it by who wins, who loses. We separated by who wins and how much they win by. So the results go as follows. The most popular option, it was separated by both teams, and the two dividers between the two tabs for each team was, do they win by 1 to 9 points or do they win by 10 plus? The most popular option, and this was our most voted on poll of the year, by the way, most popular option was Florida State surviving and winning by 1 to 9 points with 35% of the vote. However, coming in at a very close, very strong second with 33% of the vote is the nose roll. Florida State wins by 10 plus points. The most popular option for Louisville, third most popular overall, was the Cards pull off the upset and win by 1 to 9. And the least popular option was the Cards control it and win by double digits. So that's how the voting broke down.
Now, after hearing the fans, and y'all have been very in sync this season, do you agree with their sentiments?
Here's the thing. Right?
That was the most dramatic pause.
I don't see this as a blowout one way or the other. I think that this game is going to be within single digits one way or the other. So I think if I had to vote it, if I had to do like a tier-based voting, I would have Florida State winning by 1 to 9 as my most likely. Louisville winning by 1 to 9 is my second most likely. Florida State in the 10 plus as my third most, and Louisville winning by 10 plus as my least. But this game is, I think that Louisville has a much better shot than maybe folks are giving them credit at this thing. Because again, Florida State, while you have to find a chink in that armor, I mean, at the end of the day, if you can force their starting quarterback to have to win that game, which is possible, by the way, there have been games where Florida State's running game looked a little stagnant, looked a little scary there. If this Louisville defense, which at times has been flatly dominant throughout the year, can be that on this here day, I could see Louisville taking this thing. But if I had to bet my house on it, I'd go ahead and take Florida State winning by single digits.
Well, I kind of feel like it's going to come down to a touchdown or two, and Florida State is going to pull it away. I truly believe it's going to be a touchdown or less in my heart of hearts, and it's going to be a nail-biting one. It's going to be a last play that Jack Plummer's going to maybe try and come through, but it's not going to quite get there, but he's going to give it all he's got, and Louisville's going to, nod to a moral victory for a great season, but Florida State's going to hang on. I think that defense, something about Florida State's defense having to do their big one is going to come through for me this Saturday. That's what I'm predicting. So if you give a final score, I personally would say 21-17.
I'm glad that our scores are so close here because I wanted to go 24-21 Florida State. Again, I think that the task for Florida State, stop them, period. Like, I don't think that they're going to go out here and blow the doors off and have a 50-point performance. I don't think they're going to put a 50-burger on this Louisville defense. I think that their goal should be keep it ugly, keep it mucky. Because if it's about who has the better home run hitters and who can win that track meet on grass, yeah, I'll tell you what, they're going to be looking at the back of a lot of Louisville Cardinal helmets. Bless you. So with that being said, I think that the goal for Florida State should be control the clock, control the ball. We don't need the big play. We can body blow you to death and win that way. as opposed to trying to go big play for big play. You know, it's a tough situation for you. You know, it'd be like Bill Gates trying to go band for band with Elon Musk. We know who the smarter guy is, but that money spread may not money spread like you think it's money spreading against him, you know.
Oh, Lord, never mentioned that name on this show. But I feel it. I hear you knocking, nephew. All right, well, those are our predictions. We see yours in the comments. We've seen yours with our community polls. We appreciate, again, this being our last football conversation as we turn the page. We're going to talk about championship. We're going to give you that live reaction. We're both going to be in Charlotte. So we're going to have all of that for our YouTube and give you those shorts. So make sure you tune into that. We'll do a post-championship show, all those good things. But beyond that, we have to turn the page to ACC SEC challenge. We have to turn the page to the ACC basketball and all the things. So we hope you stick around for that. We know that, you know, we're not ready to give up football, but please stick around. I mean, of course, we'll have to do some transfer portal party news every now and again, but, you know, basketball has to be the baby.
Yeah, and we will have Brian Smith on to talk recruiting on signing day and all those types of things because, you know, Brian Smith is a locked on Seminoles guy, and he is, you know, he is our recruiting guy, and it's always a great time having him on. Two ball guys talking ball. Maybe Candace comes in and adds some hair to the show, but either way it goes, we'll have some recruiting news for you out of both high school and the portal.
So no doubt about that. So if you guys are going to the game on Saturday, make sure you hit us up. Let us know on Twitter at LockedOnACC. If you see us there, wave, say hello, all the things, and make sure that you check out all of our episodes and download the Locked On Seminoles podcast, Locked On Louisville podcast, two great guys who host those shows, and check out all of their really in-depth analysis. And we hope that you have a great and safe weekend. For Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs. Until next time.